So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have got a repeat guest, an absolute legend by the name of Tom Yoxall. Now, we were just saying offline, Tom is just pretty much finishing up working with me in the 1%. He's gone through an amazing journey and transformation, and I don't say that lightly, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. There's been loads of work to go into it, and by all accounts, Tom is in a really, really good place. Notwithstanding, I know for a fact he's still got some big challenges in life, but coping, thriving, and the Tom I spoke to 8 months back is a very different Tom that we're going to speak to today. I wanted to bring Tom back on because the last chat we had was fantastic, but that was a few months back, and there's more work being done, more work on himself, more life's happened, and I think Tom's only becoming more resilient within that, and so I know Tom's story will be powerful for anyone listening, so I wanted to get him back on. And also, selfishly, I love chatting to him, and it's a nice farewell swan song for when he's off in the wild on his own. So without further ado, Tom, you want to just introduce yourself again, a bit about you, who you are, what you do?
Fiance, engaged for coming up 10 years, 2 kids, 7 and 5, 7 and 4, 2 birthdays up and coming. Sales consultant, working for a company out in the States predominantly, and a company out in Hungary.
Nice.
Busy, hectic life, mate. 12, 13-hour days, and then obviously fitting in family stuff around that. So yeah, it can be challenging at times, but we're in a good spot.
Well, that's what it's all about. Well, let's jump off the conversation. So, as you just said there, lots going on at the moment. 2 sort of large contracts for yourself with how you're working. There's been a big change, even from a work perspective since we first spoke. Like, let's rewind 8 months into the past. You'd followed me and seen a few of my bits on social media. I'm not sure if it was LinkedIn or Instagram. You reached out, but you reached out.
Yeah.
What was going off back in November 2024 that made you go, right, I need to make a change here, something's not working?
So my main concern coming to you, Luke, originally was the drinking aspect. Really, really unhealthy relationship with alcohol, borderline having an alcohol problem, certainly emotionally attached to it, maybe not so much physically. I never got up in the morning drinking it first thing, but as lockdown crept in, it was getting earlier and earlier, and drinking daily. Even more so on a weekend, and it just got to the point where I didn't feel like I had a handle on it, and I reached out originally to, aside from the getting in shape and the whole mental aspect of the program and everything, didn't even factor into it. I just wanted to get a handle on the drink. Didn't set out to stop. Said to Luke originally that I want to just be normal. I want to just be able to have a few beers on a Friday and a Saturday, and then it not be a focus for the rest of the time. So that was the main issue that I was facing. I was working for a company that I didn't particularly enjoy. Feeling very, very stressed. Had a lot of things going on at home with my daughter with the recent ADHD thing. And yeah, just using alcohol as a crutch. But that was the main reason why I reached out originally.
Yeah, I think there's levels, right? But lots of people could probably relate to that. Alcohol can be a stress reliever. It takes the edge off. It quote unquote makes you feel a bit better in the moment. But for some of us, myself included, as we were just chatting about, it gets to a point where you realise, hold up, this isn't really serving me anymore. Yeah, it can take the edge off, but it's just compounding other things. And if anything, it's kind of making things worse. And like, not everyone, but for some people, like taking a step back, stopping and looking at it and assessing that relationship, it can be a very powerful thing because you realise, actually, this is one of the things that's dragging me down. It's no longer helping me. That crutch isn't really a crutch anymore. It's kind of just, it's a pattern of behaviour that's not serving me. And then inherent within that, there's all the things that you're doing or not doing, because if you are really busy day, stressed out your head, come home, have a few cans or some beer or some wine to take the edge off, it'll acutely do that. But then you probably sleep worse. You're probably not as engaged and present with your family and kids. You wake up with a fuzzy head. You don't do any exercise. You're more irritable first thing. And so it just compounds all those other things. And so it's like, if you want to make a change and that's happening sort of chronically in the background, the way I look at it, it's like trying to push a boulder up a hill. Like, you can make some changes, but it's going to be more difficult if we don't address that as well. Now, as you know, Tom, the guy working, any sort of change process works. I think it needs to be holistic and look at the bigger picture process. But for you, I think you identified that was kind of a big red flag or area that needed work, right?
100%. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. That was the main issue, but there was a lot more issues when you start, to coin your phrase, peeling back the onion. There was a lot of layers underneath it. Not just with the alcohol, but with being not as emotionally involved with the family, being detached from a lot of things, family history, horrible childhood played into it. There was a lot involved with it, but that was the main thing that I came to it with. One thing that I realised quite early on is my situation. I wasn't a single person experiencing this on my own. The amount of people that have reached out from hearing my story, either be it on social media or be it people in the blueprint and the collective, fuck me, there's a load of people going through the exact same issue. And as much as it's sometimes hard to speak about, I mean, I'm quite fortunate. I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm very, very honest. If anything, too honest on most occasions. But I think there's a lot of stigma attached to it, and a lot of people don't want to admit to it. But I'm just balls to the wall, and that's my issue. Let's get it sorted out.
Well, I said this to you yesterday on your sort of swan song on one of the group calls yesterday, and your openness and honesty and transparency of where you're at and just talking about where it's at, it's powerful because it gives others license to talk about it as well. And as you know, the group program that we're in, we foster that anyway. That's part of the process. If it's not working, you're struggling, we need to talk about it, and in doing so, we can address it and get to the root of those fundamental problems, be that alcohol or whatever it is. But you sharing and talking about that helps empower others. Now, it did within the group, but also wider. When this goes out, there'll be people in your network that'll see it, and the people that are watching it don't know you will be like, oh, yeah, that's a bit of me, that. But then I think what's powerful about your story is you changed it. And I think I know when I'm in that kind of alcoholism state, I'm someone who's been on the same journey as you, Tom. It'll be 2 years as we record this, 2 years in September, where I've stopped drinking for not dissimilar reasons to you're discussing. And I think it also creates quite a self-centered, selfish viewpoint of the world, because it's all about you and your feelings and what you need to address, and you need it to decompress. And so I think when you're in that sort of headspace and you're using something like alcohol to ameliorate that, and you can replace the word alcohol for any sort of negative behaviour, it makes you quite narcissistic and self-centered. And I think part of this journey that you've been on and I'm on, and I want other guys to go on, is that we need to look at our part within life, but not in the world owes me something. It's almost the other way around. But I think when you're in the sort of headspace you're describing, and I mean the royal you, Tom, not just you specifically, I think it breeds quite a negative sort of mindset, and you can end up being quite a victim in it's looking at everything else versus hold up a second. You need to get the mirror out here. Does that make sense?
Massively, mate. Yeah, I mean, there's countless times on a weekend where my family, we're a crazy household. We're very loud, very ADHD, very fucking flying off the walls most of the times. So we like to get out and do stuff, particularly more so now. But back then, when in Tom V1, let's call it, when I was in that drinking stage, there's times where Kerry would suggest going out and doing something for a day out on a Saturday, and I'd be thinking, fucking hell, I'm not going to be able to have a drink until 5-6 o'clock, or I hope there's a pub somewhere close by when we get there, so we can stop in for a couple of pints. And it really restricted what. It kind of put a downer and restricted on what I was doing on the weekend. Whereas now there's nothing more than I enjoy than going out for a hike with the kids. We do it most weekends as much as we possibly can, particularly now we've got the dog. We're off out doing 6-7 mile walks with the kids, jumping in fucking lakes and rivers and doing cold plunges.
Amazing.
I don't know if you saw the post from last weekend, but me and my son ended up doing a cold plunge together. He's only 4, coming up 5 in November. Yeah, it was freezing cold, mate. Both didn't take any stuff with us because we didn't plan on doing it. Both jumped in stream in his boxers, and then went to walk our way back commando. But yeah, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing anything like that previously.
Well, that's a beautiful example, right, of what this kind of change facilitates, working on yourself and being, Tom version 2, a better version of yourself. And I don't mean me and my program, I mean the person of you going, I know I need to be better. Like that little moment you had with your son, there's no fucking way that would have happened 8 months ago. Yeah. And that's predicated on all the things you've changed, you've worked on, your behaviours, how you show up. And so you go, yeah, let's do it. And I think that's beautiful, because your life isn't the big shiny things, it's those little moments. I know you mentioned one yesterday about you having a walk with your daughter, and gratitude for being in that sort of place. When you're like hungover, stressed, not looking after yourself, you just haven't got the objectivity or even presence to recognise the beauty in those small moments, right? Because you're robbing yourself.
You're so tunnel visioned. Yeah, everything's tunnel vision. Everything revolves around having a drink, and that's your plan when you get home from work. But I mean, aside from the alcohol part, Luke, genuinely, I don't think there's an aspect of my life that hasn't changed. And when I say like Tom V1 and Tom V2, and I've said this a few times, like Tom V once dead and buried. I don't mean that kind of metaphorically. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday on a phone call with a catch up. I've not spoken to him for a while, and I was like, I am a completely. When I say I'm a different person, it's like I don't even recognize that old me anymore. It's like I'm looking at two different people. And I just life's just changed drastically in every aspect: work, family, health, physique, financially. This last 8 months has literally not only saved my life but transformed my life for a million times better than what it ever could have been if I would just carried on going down that route.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about what you said there, Tom, is actually your life. If we look at it really, the life itself is the same, right? It's you and how you're showing up and what you've done and how you've changed. And so then, A, your perception of it, but then B, how you show up for everyone else within that. And because that's so different, you're like, well, life, it feels like I've got a completely different life. You haven't. You're just present, engaged, and love it, and you're there. Now, as we discussed, is it all unicorns and rainbows? Absolutely not at the moment. I know you're going through some really, really stressful stuff, but you can sit here with that grateful attitude and recognize that at the same time. Whereas when you're not feeling good about yourself, and I don't mean just the outcome in all of it, well, then you just don't see and recognize that. But being in that better place has meant you can make some awesome decisions around your career and your business. Invest more time with you in your relationships. Really invest more time in being the dad that you want to be, and all those things. So then, because of that, life feels better and richer, right? And you're like, well, I don't recognize that guy, but in a good way,
100%, yeah. And there's not like one. Like with the mental aspect about feeling positive, there's not one thing you can kind of pin it all on. It's just a combination of all the things that you learn throughout the blueprint and the collective. So the health, obviously, healthy body, healthy mind. You hear that all the time, and it's so fucking true. Not drinking, not having that fuzzy head, getting a good night's sleep, particularly with the CPAP and stuff. I know we've talked about that previously. More energy through working out, feeling mentally sharper, having a lot more enjoyment with the kids then bleeds into you feeling a lot more fulfilled and showing up and being more present. But there's no one. I think I've mentioned this in the previous call. There's no one thing that I can pin what I perceive to be my success on. It's just a multitude of getting better in all aspects of Tom V2, and it just combines to be who I am now. I mean, just to kind of summarize, just to throw some bullet points out, I've dropped 5.5 stone since working with you.
Yeah.
I was up at my heaviest at 21 stone 7. I'm now down to 16 stone. I'm a lot more muscular. I had high blood pressure, like dangerously high blood pressure. That's now completely reversed, off medication. I'm sleeping better than I've ever slept. More involved with the kids, more emotionally involved with the kids and with Kerry. I've got a more drive to deal with my problems head on and not only deal with them but challenge them, and challenge my way of thinking about them. I find myself to be a lot more appreciative now, even when shit's going down. A lot more appreciative that I'm in this headspace to be able to deal with it. Yeah, that's just some of the quick bullet points. Obviously,
Yeah.
sobriety being
A huge one
of the big ones. Yeah, 8 months sober.
Well, all those points are fantastic, and something I say a lot, which is you're the sum product of your daily actions, habits, behaviours, and choices. You're the sum of all those things. I think that healthy, positive mindset, what you're talking about. Sometimes I mentioned this on, I think it was a podcast last week with Scott. Some of the guys I work with, very cerebral, knowledge work, and so the clever and they want to think a lot. And so, you've seen some guys come in the program. They're not really coming for the physical aspects. They want to sort their heads out, right?
Yeah.
And they think, well, I want a new mindset. Well, what's the hack for it? There isn't a fucking hack. Like, having a positive mindset isn't like a thing that you bolt on or just one little thing that you do. It's a multitude of habits and behaviors and thinking that allows you to have a positive, proactive, resilient mindset. But it's also predicated on your behavior. Because if you're making commitments, keeping them, you're challenging problems head on, you think that, well, then all of a sudden that your headspace and how you think about things starts to change. Now, of course, there's things we can do to help facilitate that, challenge your thinking. But it's also very much based on what you're doing and how you're showing up and all the rest of it. And so that's when you said that, Tom. There isn't like, do this one thing for a perfect mindset. It's not how it works. Like,
No.
If you've got a week where you've shown up as best you can. Maybe you've had a shit conversation with someone. Maybe you've had a row with your missus, but then you've reconciled it properly. You've said, actually, I was the one in the wrong and all the rest of it, and looked at it more objectively. You've done a load of exercise. You missed one, but that was because the kids were up late and you did X, Y, and Z, so you did something else. Like, being resilient within what's going on, recognizing you're not perfect, well, then you'll feel like, oh, that's been a pretty good week, even though objectively there's a bit of spicy stuff going on, but you've coped and dealt with it, right? And I think that's what it's about. But being in that state is built off all the stuff that you're talking about, day to day and week to week. You don't just go where we were in November, right, next do this one thing, Tom, you're sorted. It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's not like working with a quote unquote fitness guy or a fitness coach where it's simply, right, what's your goals? What do you want to do? Right, here's your plan. Here's your meal plan. Get in the gym. You need to be in the gym for an hour and a half every single day, and that your life is flipped upside down. One of the key things that I took away from working with you was there's no, particularly from the outset, you kind of open it with, leave your ego at the door, because I'm going to ask you to do some really, really tiny things to start with. There's not going to be anything that's going to be sort of life changing. That I'm not demanding that you buy a load of dumbbells and do a workout every single day for an hour. It's just small incremental things, and you don't feel like you're having to flip your life upside down to accommodate it. It starts off slow, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, and you find the time to do it. And then a couple of weeks down the line, there's another 10, 15 minutes of something else to do, another 10, 15 minutes. And by the time you've got to the end of the blueprint, 8 weeks, you've miraculously found an hour, 2 hours of time that you can plow into yourself to get something beneficial out of it, rather than I've not got time like my initial concern was, I don't think I've got enough time to be able to fit this in. But when you actually peel it back and you sat on TikTok or fucking watching Netflix and whatever else you might be doing, there's always time to be able to pull back and work on yourself.
Totally. And that's something we discussed. Well, it's a common theme. But I literally remember speaking with this again to Scott last week about it, and it was about on that same thing. We touched on when's the right time to start any sort of change. And what he recognised, and what the realisation he said was, it's like, well, it's now. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. The thing that you need to do is make a change. And if you don't change anything, well, then nothing is going to change. But what you said there, when you're in the weeds, you think, I'm so busy. And I hear this a lot from potential clients when I speak to guys, go, well, now's not the right time. I'm just going to wait until it's a bit quiet. It's like, you've misunderstood the point. The reason you're fucked is because you don't know how to sort your life out, and we need to help you sort your life out. So it's not, the example I gave the other week was like, you come to a golf coach and you're like, right, yeah, I want to work with you. You're going to sort me out. So, but before we start, I'm just going to perfect my swing a bit, yeah? And then we'll start. What? And so if life's busy and hectic and you're struggling to find time, well, like, that's exactly the help that you need to address. Now, I guess a quote unquote typical coaching approach, or let's say it was like a PT approach. It's like, here's the thing, there's your goal, we bolt that on the top. And for something like that, of course you're not going to have time. You're like, how the fuck am I going to make this work? The way I work and the way I believe the sort of change that we were talking about, where you want long-term tangible change around yourself holistically in your life, it needs to complement the madness and help you cope with the madness. And so something I always go on about is like, it's not about doing all this stuff perfectly. It's about helping you work through it. And if something doesn't work, like, well, then we need to address why. Not, you dickhead, do it better next time, because that's not going to help anybody. And so that's the bit that allows, I think, us to sit here now, Tom, you're 8 months in a totally different place. We've had loads of conversations where you felt like you fucked up, something's gone wrong, something really intense has happened, and you're like, oh, what do I do? Well, then, because you're open and transparent and you talk about these things, we get to the root of what's happened and help you understand it, then give you action to address that problem. Then the problem doesn't rise again, or if it does in the future, you've got the resilience to go back and go, oh, we've had this conversation before. And that's, I think, the key difference is like, you can shout at someone to achieve a specific goal, and that'll work, right? But if you want a change that lasts, you need to get to the root of what's stopping it. And that isn't just brute forcing someone doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and more so, I think the more shit that you go through, I guess I'm quite fortunate in the sense that this last 8 months I've gone through a lot of shit. At the time, you kind of, prior to joining you might have just muddled through and waded through it. But the more shit you go through, the more you find that you have got the tools to be able to deal with it. Yeah. And if it, like for instance, come closer this week when we part ways. Next week, for instance, when I'm on my own two legs and some fucking random thing comes out of the woodwork like it normally does, I know from looking back in the last 8 months, I've got the mental capacity and the tools within my framework now to be able to handle that a lot better than what I would have previously.
Yeah.
Going through it shows you that you can do it again.
Yeah.
And like you said, it builds that resilience and builds that kind of mental callous to be able to power through and get on with it because you know you've got the tools in the toolbox to be able to do it.
Well, ultimately, that's what resilience is. You can only be resilient by showing yourself you're resilient. Do you know what I mean? Like, so when something goes pear-shaped, we go, oh, that was shit. Right, let's dust off. What are we going to do? What happened? How do we address it? And then if you keep doing that, like, and by the way, I think sometimes people can misunderstand this. It doesn't mean, and some of the things that you had going off this week and other guys in the program, some really horrendous, horrible things happen. We're not saying they're glorious or fantastic or trying to pretend that it's good when it's not. It's not. It's really fucking shit. But then when that's happened, you go, okay, this has happened. You go, fold, I can't, fuck everything. Or we go, that's really shit. What are we going to do? And what are we going to learn? And okay, I didn't shower myself in glory in that situation because this thing happened, right? Chalk it up. What do I learn? How can I do better? How can I reconcile that? That's where resilience comes. Now, the truth is, there's no glory when that's happening. It feels horrible. You've messed up. Something horrible's happened. It's difficult. And I think with all the sort of self-help and stoicism and Gogginsy stuff, we can sort of almost like, glorify, the hardship. But the truth is, when bad things are happening, it's not nice. But if we're able to sit there, be objective, cope with it as best we can, do a debrief, dust off after it, and then move forward, well, then that's when you feel more empowered in your life. That's when, like you said there, you can become resilient because, and you've shown yourself a few other times, well, that happened, right, okay, take a step back. I mean, you might have a day where you get stuck in the weeds and your head gets pulled back and you're not being great. But then because you've done this, you go, right, stop. What do we need to do? How can I change it? Where have I got control? Where I think I haven't? And then we move on. And ultimately, that's just such a more empowered place to operate in your life. Being a victim feels shit. And when bad things happen, we're not blaming you for those bad things happen. It's not your fault at all. But then you are responsible for how you behave after. And that's the key bit. And taking responsibility for that piece, that's the bit that feels empowering. And after the fact, when you've done it, it feels even better. When you're in it, it might be really fucking difficult, but that's life, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like Jocko, where as soon as shit hits the fan, I'm like, good. It gives me a chance to deal with shit. Yeah. But after the fact, once it's dealt with, I can think to myself, yeah, some shit came out of the woodwork, but it's dealt with, it's done, and then you get elated from that. But as a side piece to that, the amount of positivity and help that you get from the collective on WhatsApp, the WhatsApp group that you run, is for me personally, I'd say I've got more out of that group side of things than what I have with you personally. I would say it's probably a 60-40. Within that group, particularly in the 8 months that I've been in, yes, there's been some comings and goings. People obviously being further down the coast than I am, and whatnot. In that group, the amount of people when you're going through shit that reach out to you personally and that'll pick up the phone and have a chat with you. I've posted videos and stuff in there asking for help on a particular subject, or I'm going through some shit. How would you guys kind of deal with this? There's some very, very smart people in that group. Some very, very smart people. We've had tragedies, massive tragedies. We've had family deaths. We've had businesses that have folded. We've had money issues. We've had kid issues. Me with the ADHD thing. And the amount of people that have gone through similar stuff and that can offer a different perspective and offer some help and some guidance. There's people in there that have got massive manufacturing businesses and massive in tech and finance. And yeah, you're not necessarily using them for that aspect, but they've been through a lot of shit, particularly with some of the guys that are a lot older than you. There's a lot more wisdom that comes with age. And I'm very fortunate that there's a few more people in there that's a little bit older than me that can impart that wisdom on me. And that for me has been unbelievably good. And I did have a little bit of reservation at the start of it. I don't think you put enough emphasis on that personally in the social media stuff, because I think people would. I particularly came and I thought it was just like a one-on-one coaching thing, and I know a few people in the group thought that originally, but I'm glad it's not a one-on-one. I'm glad you've got that group aspect, and until you've thrown yourself in balls deep at that group and been honest and been accountable and thrown yourself into the conversations that are had there, that's when you start to reap the rewards from it. And it's tremendous. That group is tremendous.
Yeah, well, I love that you say that, Tom. I'm obviously biased because it's my program and that's it. But actually, there is such power in the group program. Now, I do some one-to-one coaching with some gents.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
Typically, it's after this, and then maybe we need something more specific and a bit more detailed, and that's it. But I'd say 90% of the guys I work with these days, it's all the group process. For all the reasons you've said, I think sometimes we think our problems are unique and special, and it's just me struggling. Everyone else has got it sorted, and it's just me struggling. And what am I going to learn from anyone else anyway? Because my life's so special and unique, and my problems are so different from everyone else's that I need this. And I'm being a bit facetious here, but on purpose. But then you get dumped into another program or process with 10, 15, 20 other guys who have got similar business time problems, similar things around booze, similar stresses around kids, also struggling and those repeated negative patterns of behavior that you do, some of the self-esteem bits, all that, and you go, oh, fuck, it's not just me, it's other people. But those same guys taking ownership, working through the problems, talking about it, open, honestly, it's just a powerful place to elicit behavior change, right? And that's what we're here for. And there's some guys I speak to, when I say it's the group bit, they freak out and oh my God, and it puts them off. But I guess the bit that they don't get is what we've just talked about there. And sometimes it's hard to really understand that you feel it. There's a gent in the blueprint. He's coming to the end now, and he got on the first call, and we were chatting away, talking to each person like I do, round robin. I got to him and said, right then, how's it going? How's your first week? And he went, shoulders just dropped. He went, it's not just me. And that's the first thing he said. And you could just see he was just like and I can see, because I see people nodding, I could just see him going, and then like just that was like, oh, and then we had a chat, and he's thriving now, right? Because we think it's because you see everyone else is outside, and guys are getting better at chatting to each other. We're your mates, you don't always open up like this kind of stuff that we do. You just assume everyone else is sorted because you see this polished, quite well respectable veneer. But then when you see some people perhaps that you would look at on LinkedIn or whatever else, within the industry, sort of, I guess the professional sphere, you think they're all sorted. And then those same guys being very open and honest and talking about where they're at, you go, oh, I'd look up to him and respect him, and he's struggling with that. And not that you're like belittling him. It's like, oh, well, I do too. Oh, we're all in it together, And you realise everyone's going through shit and everyone's struggling, but far from that being a negative, it's the reverse. It's empowering. I think it makes the coaching more powerful. I know it does. You're a prime example, Tom.
100%, yeah. And I think, yes, men are getting better at talking, but men typically don't have many friends. And I, for one, don't open up to my friends like I have in that group, whether that be through fear of judgment or being thought less about. And we've got this ego, all us men have, of this persona that we want to be perceived as. And there's a lot to be said for being in a group like that with a bunch of people all on the same path, all trying to better themselves, all coming at it with various different issues, some more so, some more worse than what you're going through, and all working towards the same goal of becoming collectively better. It's a massively powerful thing.
Yeah. And look, where you're at, it speaks for itself, right? Like I said at the start, you open, transparent, talked about stuff, you put your hands up when you've been struggling, and we work through it, and be that with me, but also the other guys in there who can also help. And that's a powerful place. And I know some of the questions around business stuff and whatever else, you got some amazing advice, and look where it's at. And that's that's the power of being in that group process. Well, look, Tom, it's been an awesome conversation, an awesome second conversation. I don't want to take up too much of your time because as we've just been discussing, we're all very busy. Any parting thoughts or comments for anyone listening to this? Maybe if they were in the similar situation to you were back in November, what would you say to someone about, if they're in that kind of place you were?
It's a tough one, really, because I did try to think about this morning, and the only thing I can say is reach out. Just have a conversation with Luke and just see where it sits. See if the cap fits for you. He's a very, very personable guy. He's not the kind of guy that will be on your back constantly, chasing you, putting massive pressure on you to do it. That he imparts that on you, so you feel like you're pushing yourself, and you're showing up for yourself and showing up for your family. If you are having issues, that anything that I've kind of brought to the table or from the other calls with Luke, just reach out. Don't suffer in silence. If you feel like you've got more in the tank and that you're failing in some aspects, just reach out. Just have a conversation. There's nothing to be lost, or there's nothing to be lost by having a conversation. It's a lot more cost competitive than what I originally thought it was going to be from the outset. So don't let that put you off. This man right here can change your life if you're willing to do it. That's the top and bottom of it.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. It's a pretty good endorsement if there was one. And like you said there, I think part of it, whether that's whatever the reason, if you think you've got a problem and something's not working, you've got a problem and something's not working. Because someone who thinks everything's all great doesn't think that. Do you know what I mean? And so I think part of it, like you said, is just being honest. And whether that's to reach out and speak to someone like me or whatever else. But if you're in a place where you're not feeling great, your life doesn't look good, you're stressed, and, you know, perhaps it feels like everyone's out to get you, I would challenge the not. It's you and how you're showing up. And what you need to do is take a step back and look at your part in it and put some changes in place. Now, of course, I can help with that. That's a process that I run, and that's what we're all about. But equally, I think the first step in any kind of change is recognising that you need to and then doing something. Yep. And as we would say up north, Tom, hope's better than note, right? Starting
exactly
doing something.
Exactly that.
Mate, you're a legend. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on again. You know I love working with you. You deserve all the success you've got, and you should be incredibly proud of what you've achieved. And it's been a pleasure to see you and your journey. If anyone is watching or listening and they're interested in having a chat with me about how I can help, like Tom's describing, reach out, drop me a note in the comments or the DMs. Failing that, I will see you all next week. Cheers, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.